This is Nick on Control Nick, and today I'm going to teach you how we can take advantage of ranking in Excel. Let's dive into the workbook so I can show you a couple of examples. All right, so we're in the workbook now, and I figured we might as well do something a little more fun, and so we'll use NBA players as an example. So in this workbook example, I have 5 different NBA players that are considered some of the best in the NBA. And what I put in are their average points, rebounds, and assists per game. So firstly, I want to show you how would you actually rank these. I know you could just easily eyeball them, but if you have a full list of NBA players, let's say over 100, then this would make it a lot easier for you to do. So the first thing you do is you go into the cell where you want to put a ranking. So for Anthony Edwards, I want to put in a rank for what is his rank of points out of these top 5. So let's do equals, and then the formula that we'll use is just starting to type in rank. And you'll notice when you type in rank, there's going to be 2 main options. The first option is going to show you the rank, but if there's a tie in ranking, it'll give you the average between the two. So if it's between 10th and 11th place, for example, it'll pop out 10.5 if there's a tie between those. Whereas rank.eq will show you the next ranking, meaning that if there's a tie between 10th and 11th, they'll both show as 11th. So normally you use rank.average. That's typically the easier one to go with. So let's double click on that formula, and now we're actually going to put the ranking in. So all you need to do is put in the cell that you want to rank. So here we're going to use Anthony Edwards points, which is in cell C3. You actually can't see it behind the formula, but that is the cell that we're using. Now we're going to do a comma, and then what we're going to do is highlight what is his ranking amongst all of the different other points or average points per game from these players. So I'm just going to drag from bottom up. You could do top down as well, but it's just to show you, I'm going to grab the full array. So you start with this rank, and then you go all the way down to the bottom of your list. Now, on my keyboard, I just press F4. I'm going to lock this because then it's easier to copy and paste down this formula. Next, you put in the order. So the order is based off 2 options, descending or ascending. So it just determines if Anthony Edwards, maybe he's number 1 or he's in first place, or he could be showing as number 5, which could also be first place. It's just the number that you want to show in here. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I type in 0, and that's actually the last part of this formula, I'm going to close parentheses and do enter. You'll notice that a 3 pops up. Now, let's copy and paste down. You'll see what I mean. So Anthony Edwards is 3rd, and then Luka is 1st place, meaning that Luka has the most average points per game of this list of 5 players. Now, if I go back into the formula and I change that 0 to a 1, I press enter and I copy and paste down. You can see that now we changed Luka and it shows that he's 5th. But in theory, he is the highest. So it just depends on the order you want to use for ranking. There's pros and cons to using both, but at the end of the day, it just depends on what you'd like to use. For our sake, let's say that if you're number 1, you're the best, right? And for these 5 players, they are considered some of the best in the league. So that's why what we want to figure out is who's the most valuable player of all of these. Let's do it one more time. So I'm going to go into the formula bar and we'll do equals rank. I'm going to double click on average. I'm going to select Anthony Edwards, comma. I'm going to put down the full list array again, lock the cells, comma, 0. Simple as that. Close parenthesis, enter. The exact same thing. But you'll notice that Anthony Edwards isn't as strong in rebounds across these players as some of the others. So he was 3rd in points per game, but he's 4th across these players in terms of rebounds. Let's do it one last time. Equals rank, double click. We'll use G3 just because it's hiding behind the formula, comma, full array, lock, comma, 0. Close parenthesis. Copy and paste down. So now we have all the rankings for points, rebounds, and assists for these players. Now, it's cool that we can see this ranking, and you can always order this from largest to smallest, smallest to largest, and I can actually show you quickly how you can do that. So if you just highlight all the columns here and go to data, which is already pre-selected, you can select filter, And then you can click these drop-down arrows and you can choose the smallest and the largest, and these rows will update for you. So if we go to points per game in the ranking and do from smallest to largest, so in this case, smallest technically means first place, and I change that, you can see that everything updates in the table. So you can see now Luka is number 1, and it goes 1 through 5. But you'll notice that it varies depending on what we're looking at, right? Because each of these statistics is different. Now, if you want to see who's the best of the best based off of all of these combined, right now in this ranking system, we're assuming that all of these different stats are equivalent to each other. If you want to see how that varies, I'll show you that in the next example. But for the sake of this exercise, we'll just do equals, and let's just do a simple sum. So I'm just going to do the rank of points plus the rank of rebounds plus the rank of assists. Enter. And I'm going to copy and paste this down. And again, we're basing this off of the lowest score is the best. And actually now, if we filter from smallest to largest, you'll notice there's actually a tie between Luka and Nikola. They're both averaging or have a total ranking of 6, which is the lowest, meaning they are tied for being the most valuable players of these 5 players that we've selected. So that's a real simple way of showing how does ranking work in Excel, and it's a fun way to do it if you like talking sports and statistics. And you can do this with as many statistics as you'd like. However, maybe you also like to have discussions about what's most important in a game as well. So in basketball, maybe you consider points are the most important statistic, and rebounds and assists could maybe be the same, but you want to emphasize ranking based off of points. So let's go into weighted ranking, and I'll show you what that is in just a second. So in this view, it's a little more complicated of a view versus the normal ranking that you had done. So I've already pre-filled in the rankings from that first example, but now I've added in weighted ranking. So the first thing to consider when weighted is when you discuss weighted, it's out of 100%. So just to give you an example, maybe you believe that points is the most important statistic in basketball. So out of 100%, let's assume that this ranking or this statistic is 40% of the total weighted ranking. And then you believe that rebounds and assists are of equal value. So let's give them 30% each. And you'll notice is I've just put in a little easy checker here. It totals into 100%. But you'll notice that there's a slight sway in weighted ranking to points. So now that we already have the pre-filled formulas of the rank average, so all of this is the same as the other example, all I'm going to do is multiply that rank by the percent. So I do equal sign, and I'm going to select this D3 here, multiplied by the percentage up here. And I'm going to lock that cell and click enter. And now when you copy and paste down, you'll notice that it shows these different averages versus what we were showing in the other example. But I'll show you what that means as we go a little more forward. Let's do the same thing for rebounds. We're going to do equal sign, their rank, multiplied by the weighted rank. And I'm just going to lock that H1 cell and click enter, and then copy and paste down. And let's do it one more time for assists. So rank multiplied by weighted rank, lock it, and copy and paste down. Now what you'll notice is that you have different values here, right? Because what we're doing in here is we're still doing a sum, but it has a decimal in it. And that's because when you do weighted ranking, since it's a percent, more than likely you're not working with whole numbers anymore. So it's nice to just have an extra digit or two showing. You can highlight and you can go to home and then add in more decimal places if you'd like, especially if you're very specific with your percentages that you're using. But for the sake of this exercise, we're just using 1 decimal. Last thing I want to show you is the difference between the two, because now that we've applied a weighted ranking, it actually gives you different results. So if I highlight the whole column section here, go back to data and filter, and if I filter by smallest to largest, because we're using the same logic, the smaller the total here, the higher the placement, you can actually see that because we weighted ranked 40% to the point section, Luka actually takes the lead in terms of the most valuable player here. Whereas if you remember in the other exercise, Luka and Nikola were actually tied. So it's a real cool way to add discussion to what is the most important statistic you want to use, and you can apply this to a number of different examples. That was actually it for today's video. If you found it useful, please consider liking and subscribing. It always helps. And please consider selecting either the above videos that are popping up on your screen that I find useful. Thanks again, and have an amazing day.